Welcome to another episode of What Did the Patient Say with Doctors Dana and Lauren Brindisi, sisters and owners of Carolina Functional Neurology Center. We are providing you answers to frequently asked questions and bringing you inside information from real conversations we have with patients on a daily basis. Our goal is to spread the truth on health and healing because we believe everyone deserves to know the answers.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of What Did the Patient Say with our patient interview edition. I have a patient of mine here, Jared, and we're going to be talking a little bit about his experience with some of his symptoms and his experience here at CFNC. Thank you so much for being on, Jared.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to join.
So can you start by telling us a bit about what diagnosis you had, what type of symptoms that you were experiencing initially?
Yeah. Oh gosh, just gives me goosebumps thinking about it. I'm sure others have kind of a PTS-like thing thinking about it. It was very bizarre. And it came really fast. So it was just kind of hit me one evening. I think, I felt like my mind just blinked. And so I just the the event horizon, if you will, the very start of it was just, I felt like I was having hypoglycemia, like a very bad hypoglycemia. And being diabetic, it's a normal feeling, but it felt like really intense. And so when that happens, you check your blood sugar. And so I did that, and it was not low at all. I checked it more than once. And my heart was racing, my blood pressure went up. I actually went to the ER, and it just kind of went from there. And it just progressed over time. I just felt toxic too. Like my whole body, it felt like it was just like eating itself. I had really bad vertigo. I couldn't even walk in a straight line. Had some rapid weight loss. I was losing like over a pound in a day. And then again, just a lot of like heart related vertigo, maybe dizziness related symptoms for just doing things like standing, walking outside, just like being in the heat would trigger me. Even just eating, I would eat. And looking back, that's like, okay, the diabetic thing. So any spikes in sugar going up or down would trigger these episodes, if you will, of like heart racing and just feeling really bad and toxic, and kind of forcing me to have to kind of lay down.
And so what happened from there? What did you figure out once you started having those symptoms?
Yeah, so then that was a journey. I went to the ER 4 times, and they tested everything, and they just could not figure out what was going on. I was referred to every specialist known to man. Obviously, I was talking a lot with my endocrinologist, and they were all great. Like everybody was very thorough. We did every test kind of known to man again. Blood tests, MRIs, CT scans. I did all of the heart cardiologist tests you could think about. Went to the GI. No real answers, nothing concrete, just guesses. And again, they were being thorough. They're specialists. It like everything was kind of coming back as like, hey, like your cardiologist, as an example, your heart is fine. Like you're a healthy heart, but like, well, what's causing all this to happen? And so, it was frustrating. It was very scary. But it wasn't good enough, right? Like some were just saying, well, you're diabetic. That's just going to happen. Well, I've been diabetic for 25 years and never had problems. And so like, that's just not the right answer. And so the engineer in me like wanted more. Like I wanted a solution. I just did not want these Band-Aids. And so just kind of stepping back and looking at the symptoms and looking at some of the advice, this term POTS was thrown out a couple times. And so I looked into that, and I went on to Google doing my own research and found CFNC. And so I said, you know what, like, let's just give it a shot. And so I called, and y'all were able to get me in within a few weeks. I would say, I think some neurologists at some of the medical centers I had contacted too, and they couldn't see me for a whole year. And so the fact that CFNC could get me in right away was a really big deal. I mean, I was feeling horrible. I had no idea what was going on. And so, yeah, that's what started the journey and how I was feeling.
So you found us with your own research, and then you hopped in your car, and you live about 3 hours or so away from here, and you came for the exam. So tell us a little bit about your experience here at CFNC.
Yeah, no, it was great. Again, I just getting in right away was just already like a great feeling, and being seen. And so, yep, drove up from Charleston, got the initial exam. I would, again, we were kind of thinking POTS. And so I think the outcome we wanted from that first exam was just like really understand, like, are these symptoms what we think they are? And a lot of the tests that were done, the blood pressures and the pulses and all of that, were good to help look at that. But I think just for me, like, that's great. POTS, yeah, we needed to look into that. There's some very specific tests you can do. But for me, the most important thing was that, like, we kind of walked through the history of what was going on, and you took somewhat of a holistic view of, like, my health. Like, it wasn't just another, like, oh, let's see if this is POTS and move on. It was like, let's kind of functionally look for the root cause and think about how we can help those. And so that's what I got out of the first exam, was like, okay, yep, look, probably not POTS, but very much you are having some autonomic dysfunction. That's what a lot of these symptoms are. But let's find the root cause, and let's go down that path. And so that's what we started to do. So that started sort of the next half of the journey with CFNC.
So then what happened next? Like, what, you came in for treatment. If you can tell the audience a bit more about what your experience was with treatment here, how did your symptoms evolve over time?
Yeah, sure. So, was still feeling bad, right? Like, we hadn't really addressed the cause. So after the initial exam, we decided to move forward. The first part was the blood tests, which, again, like I mentioned, I had already taken a lot, but they were not looking at all the same things, and they were not looking at it from, like, a holistic view. And so that was the first thing that we did was the blood tests. And then we journeyed back up. We did what I think y'all are calling, like, an intensive. And so we essentially did, several weeks of therapy within, like, a few days. But before that, though, we did a lot of the other exams. So, like, getting to the root cause. So we did some of the eye movement, the balance. We looked at the blood tests. We did some more of the autonomic testing, and then together we looked at that and came up with the therapy plan. From there, that's when we started to do some of the intensive work.
Okay, so you came for the intensive. What was that experience like? Like you said, you kind of painted that picture really well. It's like weeks worth of treatment, and you only came for 3 days. A lot of our patients come for 4 or 5 days. So we started with 3 days. Do you
That's
recall
right.
or remember how you felt throughout that
Yeah.
3 days and how
Yeah.
that
You know,
went?
I was still feeling bad. You know, came in, did the first series, so that was a mix of some of the neuromodulation, right, and doing some of the eye movement. So I think that's kind of addressing some of the autonomic and getting right to the cause of that. We did some of the beamer, which was to help with the blood flow and help with the healing, and then the red light treatment as well. So we did all that several times in one day, and so yeah, I was just like exhausted. Um, I think I even remember you like suggesting that I don't even look at my phone because you need like the entirety of my brain to focus on that. And so that night, like, whoa, man, I was like having some symptoms. Um, Woke up in the middle of the night, like just like shaking and sweating, and like clearly it had done something. It triggered something. And I remember coming back the next morning, like, okay, we're about to do this again, but like, guess what happens? And you're like, you know, it's fine. Like, it's expected. Like, let's get through this, and we did. So we did 2 more days, and um, went back home, and just slowly started to feel better, started to do more, um, and started to really look at kind of the root cause of what we think happened, which was really bizarre, right? We think it was a mix of um, gut infection that we heard from the GI that, again, a Band-Aid wasn't fixing, that tied with, maybe a potential um, concussion that I had gotten in Jiu Jitsu. And so just had some bad luck at having that at the same time. And so, after the intensive, went back and just started working all the things from the treatment plan that we discussed.
And so now, how long has it been? I don't even recall when your first intensive was. That was maybe a year ago or so?
It was less than a year, yeah. So May 1st was like the event horizon. Like that was the day that
Okay.
this all started. And so it took me 3 months to find you. And so yeah, it's been probably, it's probably been 9 months or so
In August, it looks like.
ish. Yeah,
Yeah, you came in
6-9
August.
months.
And then we did some telehealth from there.
That's right.
And
Yep. And
what
so
kind of happened between then and you came for a second couple days?
yeah, so stuck with the plan, and I think the key there, and from your suggestion, was just a day at a time. And so I slowly started to feel better. I started to do more physically. I started to be able to um, really take heat. So going out in Charleston and kind of being able to walk around a little bit. I would say the first thing, especially after the neuromodulation, was the vertigo was the first thing that went away. Um, and so that was just kind of that off balance feeling. And then I slowly was able to sort of like do more physically. And so some of the exercises, the isometric exercises, I started to do more and more each week, and it would not trigger the feeling. So they were not gone, but it slowly started to stop triggering. And then we were also taking supplements. And so I think the whole kind of gut reset that happened, kind of controlling that, made a lot of the just sort of toxic feeling go away, and the triggering of the episodes slowly started to go away. Um, and so once I got to a point where it was like, all right, I'm still feeling it. It's not getting worse, but it's not going away. hey, let's come in and do this again. And so we did that.
So you came back, we did another round.
That's right.
But your autonomics were super stable at that point. So
That's right. Yep.
we came at that point, we did, another round of treatment. It wasn't quite as long. We expanded a little bit on the activities that you were working on at home, like your eye exercises and other vestibular rehab methods. And we checked your autonomics, checked your eye movements, checked your balance again. And we were definitely noticing the improvement there. So that was October. Where are you at now? If you had to put a percent in terms of your overall improvement, what would you say you're at this point?
Yeah, I would say I'm probably 98%. And so, like, I think just after that last round, and just slowly kind of doing more and having the courage to do more, I think that's important too. And having y'all's help, just kind of working through, like, I just, like, do not want to go back into that state, whatever happens. And so I think I was just, that last time I was there, you're just like, you need to push it. Let's push it. Let's do more. And so I really started to do that. And then it just kind of like triggered. I just like started feeling great and much better. I think there's still a couple things here and there, but that I think might just kind of be some of my like nerves from the whole situation. And so, yeah, and then we came back again and did all the tests and everything came back great. And so here we are, just feeling pretty good, and just was staying consistent and progressed. And yeah, I feel almost 100%.
That's so great to hear.
Yeah.
So that's really only been about 8 months.
That's right.
From when you started. I mean, that was, even your exam was a little bit before that, but you came for that intensive in August. So we're about 8 months out, and you've made substantial improvement. That didn't come easy. Jared's worked really, really hard at home and has been extremely compliant with the things that I've recommended for him. And I think you brought up a really good point, because a lot of people ask us about what the long-term management looks like, especially after they may come for a short-term treatment plan. And Jared and I have continued to have telehealth calls and conversations on a somewhat regular basis, maybe every month or every, couple months, just to check in and make sure that everything's going well. And I think the big piece that you touched on that I want to emphasize, especially when people are healing their nervous system, is that you have someone to help you there and guide you through this. You don't have to do it alone. And that sometimes you just need an outside perspective to help show you that you're in a place to start moving yourself forward. We have these emotional components to these types of conditions where people get nervous to like reintegrate back into their life. And when you do that, it just, like you said, it kind of becomes a PTSD thing, because this little thing would trigger you, or just doing the dishes would make you feel terrible, or walking up the stairs. And so people just get scared to get back to living their life. And once we were able to give Jared the okay that he felt that he really objectively was looking better, we were able to push him past that so that he was able to continue to get back to living his life and not be afraid to push himself. And that really helped him, fully get better. And this is just so great. It's so exciting to hear. So at this point, Jared, we're going to continue with telehealth, but we'll continue spreading that out, and likely he'll be dismissed from care soon.
Yes, it's been a journey, so really appreciate y'all's support.
Yeah, we appreciate you and for taking the time to help us spread this information. So for anybody out there listening, if you have any specific questions, we always recommend that you just reach out to us, like, share, comment. A lot of what we're producing is geared by patients and by our audience here online to help people get the answers that they need. So thanks again, Jared. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.